Brand new Xbox news, all the latest right now. What is happening, guys? Dealer back again with yet another video with multiple topics to cover today, including the new packaging for the next generation Xboxes, some information that may surprise you about the Xbox Series S and its specs, as well as, some very detailed information about the system itself. All that and more in today's video. But hey, if you end up liking the video, hit the like button, show a buddy or two, subscribe for all of the latest and greatest, and of course, thank you so much for what you do. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments as we go. First up, really quickly, EA Play, aka EA Access, is now coming to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate at no additional charge. Yes, no extra fee, so anti-consumer, correct? No, Billy, you're absolutely wrong. Please don't offer your opinions ever again. It is not anti-consumer. This phenomenal value that was Game Pass is getting even better. It's absolutely insane how far people reach to try to turn something like this into a bad thing. At the end of the day, you are getting more value from the service. If you want to rent your games that way, you cannot beat it. I just figured I would throw this out there real quick. Also, for those asking, it does actually launch this holiday with the new Xbox systems, which do launch, and this is now officially confirmed, November 10th for both the Xbox Series S and Xbox Series X. As I reported a video or so ago, the leak was absolutely correct. That's why I reported on it, and those consoles do come in at $499 for the Series X and $299 for the Series S. We've actually got confirmed specs for the Series S, we'll go over that in a minute, as well as official packaging for Xbox Series X, what you will see in store, as well as the Xbox Series S gameplay and full specifications. We got it all right here. Some of this will sound very familiar because I've been talking about it for a year and a half or so when it comes to the specs. Turns out most all of those are correct, but there are some new tidbits here and there, and who better to explain it than Xbox's Jason Ronald. Again, every single piece of gameplay you're about to see has been confirmed to be running on an Xbox Series S.
When we started this journey in 2016, we set the goal of bringing transformative gaming experiences to all gamers across the globe. Gamers have different priorities and playstyles, but we all want to have the same great gaming experience with the same catalog of next-generation games that we can play with our friends regardless of which device we choose to play on. To deliver on our ambitions, we knew we needed to build two consoles with similar next-gen capabilities at a differentiated price point. By designing two consoles in parallel from the very beginning, we can deliver the same core gaming experience while also making it as easy as possible for developers to scale their games across both consoles with minimal effort. This means that Xbox Series S delivers the same incredible next-generation experience and features as Series X, just at a reduced rendering resolution. With that in mind, I'd like to highlight some of the features and performance benefits you can expect from Xbox Series S, our smallest, most affordable, all-digital, next-generation Xbox console. Xbox Series S leverages the same 8-core Zen 2 CPU architecture as the Xbox Series X, running at 3.6 GHz and 3.4 GHz with simultaneous multi-threading enabled. The primary difference between Xbox Series X and S is the GPU. Xbox Series X is designed to deliver a next-generation gaming experience in native 4K at 60 frames per second with support for up to 120 frames per second. Series S is designed to deliver the same great next-gen experience at 1440p, also with support for up to 120 frames a second. It also includes an advanced hardware scaler to upscale your games when you're connected to a 4K TV. Xbox Series S also has full hardware support for AMD's latest RDNA 2 feature set, including hardware-accelerated DirectX ray tracing, mesh shaders, and variable rate shading, the exact same as Xbox Series X. Xbox Series S contains 10 gigs of GDDR6 memory running at 224 gigabytes per second, scaled in line with the target resolution. Here, you can see how much more quickly games can load on Xbox Series S. The player on Xbox Series S is already enjoying the Outer Worlds, while the player on Xbox One is still waiting for the game to load.
Every available moment.
As we said previously, we designed Xbox Series S to target 1440p at 60 frames per second with support for up to 120 frames per second.
With our update to Gears 5, we're bringing 120 frames per second multiplayer to Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S. It's certainly capable of 120 frames per second, and we've enabled that with Gears 5 without compromising visual quality. We cannot wait for you to experience the performance of 120 frames per second on both Xbox Series S and Xbox Series X.
With Xbox Series X and S, your favorite games seamlessly scale across devices while maintaining what's new and innovative about our next generation consoles. We wanted to make the development process as easy as possible for developers around the world to build their games for both consoles. All the games you see here are running on Xbox Series S. Developers today already use a number of techniques such as dynamic resolution scaling to scale their games across multiple performance profiles, and the design of Xbox Series X and S empowers them to continue to do so without requiring fundamental changes. Developers will typically optimize their games first for 4K on Series X, and then scale down the rendering resolution to 1440p for Xbox Series S, while still supporting all of the other great next-gen features. With support for all of the same next-generation features and capabilities in both Xbox Series X and S, developers can focus on delivering the same great gaming experience on both consoles, and their power, speed, and performance will enable the future of games.
Now, I know that was a lot, but man, did any of you actually really, were you really surprised by how well this video was done? Honestly, I just wanted to show the clip because they explained it almost perfectly. And again, I just wanted to show the source right from Xbox, how all this is actually going to work. I think they explained exactly what we've been covering on this channel for quite a while, how these games will scale across the boxes and the Series S will effectively quarter the resolution, or by his example, 1440p, 3.6 million pixels, just under half of 4K. They also confirmed that they don't have as much RAM as the Xbox One X because they actually don't need it. Series S, as he so clearly explained, will not be rendering things at as high a resolution because likely you will be at double the frame rate, meaning you're probably going to half the pixel count. So you don't need to actually pay for 2 more gigabytes of GDDR6 in this box. It keeps the cost low. Keep in mind that the Xbox Velocity architecture is also shared amongst both systems, so you do have that whole virtual memory setup on the SSD. They also did confirm essentially the same exact CPU in this APU with just a lower GPU target, meaning Series X's game design will not be compromised where the graphics can scale as he clearly explained. So it does have the same 16-thread technology and everything, and it runs at a very similar clock. Again, game design is what's held back by slower hardware, and them keeping the CPU very similar will actually ensure that Series X does not get held back, meaning you can have a bunch of AI, you can do all of these different things that literally change the game, mechanics, etc. As he said, the GPU will scale and quarter down that resolution to just under half of 4K while running very, very similar graphics effects. Now, one that I am curious about is ray tracing. As you guys know, he did confirm hardware accelerated ray tracing as we had known for quite some time, but the amount of CUs your system has actually will have a pretty decently sized effect on the ray tracing of the box, at least according to what I know. Maybe one of you knows something different about the way this box works or these boxes work, but I have not seen anything on this yet. To my knowledge, it does have 20 CUs, whereas the Series X has 52 CUs. Ray tracing compute is generally tied to each CU, meaning the more CUs, the more efficient, the more powerful your ray tracing processing. Think of it that way. So if Series S has less CUs, then it shouldn't be as good at ray tracing as Series X. I would imagine that's one graphics technique that would be scaled back on the lower end system, but thankfully it is a graphics technology, so it can easily be turned off, scaled down, scaled up, etc. And remember, none of these games will be held back because of a low-end Xbox, thanks to the PC versions of these games that will run on a lower minimum minimum spec PC build than what the Lockhart is. It's all about lowest common denominators, as I've explained. They also confirmed 4 teraflop Navi RDNA2 technology on the GPU, meaning that thanks to this newer architecture, it is actually more powerful than the Xbox One X today on 6 teraflop GCN architecture. Think of it as getting more pixels, frames, effects per teraflop. It is a gaming-focused architecture. I get it, teraflops are not the greatest way to measure things, but it is very easy to understand for people, especially those that understand that you actually can measure with teraflops if both parties are on the same architecture. So if you have 2 RDNA2 GPUs, you can actually measure those because they should perform almost identically if they are running on the same architecture, meaning you can actually compare the teraflop count. Again, we try to make things as simple as possible to understand. Notice that the 4 teraflops that I've been talking about since December is actually confirmed here, which is great. 4 teraflops, exactly 20 CUs. It also has a 500 gigabyte SSD, and again, guys, I know it's 500 gigabytes, but everything that is not enhanced you can run off of an external. Otherwise, you'll be transferring games back and forth from your external to your internal SSD often, which should be quite a bit faster given that the box is much faster and balanced in the first place. But yes, look forward to doing that quite a bit on Series S if you have a ton of games that are enhanced. It's a way to keep the cost on the box down, and honestly, it's still a tremendous value with a 500 gig SSD. They also confirmed VRS and all of the same RDNA2 features as the Xbox Series X. It is a full RDNA2 chip. Again, extremely capable. Honestly, people are actually blown away by this little console for $300 that's going to play games at 120 frames per second, which by the way, I was called insane for saying. 1080p 120 frames per second, very doable on many games. I do expect to see a lot of games running at 1080p 60 FPS with maybe higher settings. Ultra settings would be nice, but honestly, developers will do what they do. The box does nothing without their say-so. Again, the box does not have a disk drive, and they did demonstrate the loading times on games like Outer Worlds. By the way, these loading times are not final because, as confirmed, without being patched and optimized, quote-unquote, for Xbox Series X, the game does not utilize the velocity architecture. This means that those 100 gigabytes of in-game assets are not instantly available to load even faster. It means a lot. The games just simply do not load nearly as fast. So if you're a weird guy and you have a PC that's like 20 Xbox Series S's in price and you're trying to load and compare Xbox Series S Outer Worlds times versus maybe a drive that is probably the cost of the Xbox Series S, all to try to make the system look worse for absolutely no reason, well, hey, you're weird, but I think you already know that, don't you? Before we go into the actual packaging for Series X, I figured I would mention that Assassin's Creed Valhalla has officially been confirmed by Ubisoft to run at 4K 60 FPS on Xbox Series X. Yes, that game that they would not confirm ran more than 30 FPS before. After some good feedback from the community, of course, kindly, yes, kindly, of course, 60 FPS is now on the table. Now, I had said on the podcast over and over that this is not confirmed to not be 60 FPS, but if it were 60 FPS, why would they not tell us? So, I'm thinking the feedback really led to this from you guys, the community, and thank you so much. It's not about games not being enjoyable at 30 FPS. Yes, of course they are. It's really about getting what you're paying for from your new console. If you're not getting 60 FPS or that option on every game, you're really not getting most of that capability. Remember, these guys have said, forget 60, we're going to 120 on a lot of games. That's how capable this CPU is, and provided you got the GPU overhead, you can obviously reduce that workload for pixels, things like that, and let those frames run free. Give me double the frame rate, 60 on every single game. But hey, let me know your thoughts on everything we covered so far, as well as this new Xbox Series X marketing, or packaging rather. You'll see this in the store soon. Now, I actually think this is a very, very sleek. It's a great angle. It shows some kind of glowing thing that's not actually there on the production unit, but I get the point. It does look really, really cool. There actually is a green hue at the top, though not an LED light. As soon as you see this, you are thinking, man, that what's inside? What is that thing? And again, they are launching multiple SKUs on day one, so they got the logos, Series X, etc. I think it looks pretty sleek, guys. Let me know your thoughts down below. I'm looking forward to seeing this box when I pick it up on November 10th, or rather November 9th at 11 p.m., right? Pre-order starts September 22nd. Keep your eyes peeled. And also, hey, bonus topic, IGN reporting that the low-end Xbox's CPU is faster than PS5's CPU. Figured I would throw this clip up for you guys. I did post this on Twitter, just watching these guys get so mad, which is why I did it. Honestly, it's ridiculous. Yes, we know the PS5 is faster overall, but at the end of the day, according to what I've been told by developers, PS5's CPU clock is only ever at 3.5 gigahertz if the GPU actually underclocks, or rather frees up some kind of voltage. So again, I showed the specs on screen during this video. Go back and pause it there, check them out. PS5's CPU does run at 3.5 gigahertz on a dynamic scale, a teeter-totter. GPU on one end, CPU on the other. Let me know your thoughts, and let me know your thoughts about this IGN clip. Hit that like button, share this with a buddy or two, subscribe for everything. Long video, a lot of editing. Check the links down below for sources, Patreon, and more. Thank you so much. I'm Dealer. I'm out.
The Xbox Series S could be faster than the PS5. Microsoft just dropped a ton of information on the Xbox Series S, including internal hardware specs. On paper, the Series S will have the same graphical features as the more expensive Series X. That includes ray tracing and a max frame rate of 120 FPS. In fact, the only hardware difference between the two sibling consoles, aside from hard drive space, appears to be the GPU. While they're both built on the same AMD architecture, the Series S GPU will feature less RAM at a slower speed to accommodate the console's output of 1440p as opposed to the Series X's 4K. However, since both feature the same CPU, that potentially makes the Xbox Series S faster than the PlayStation 5 and for half the price. According to a recent tweet from The Verge's Tom Warren, both the Series X and Series S use the same CPU running at 3.6 gigahertz. This means that Microsoft's $299 next-gen console features a processor that runs 0.1 gigahertz faster than the PlayStation 5.